Welcome to the Wealth Acceleration Podcast with your host, wealth coach Wade Reed.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Wade Reed here for the next episode of the Wealth Acceleration Podcast. I am super excited to be with you today and have special guests for you. I promised you this. I promised you, and I'm delivering. So we have with us today Cory and Shannon Wilkinson. They're going to be my special guests and have a chance for us just to kind of talk shop. They've been clients of mine for several years now, and we're going to just kind of have a casual conversation about what life was like before we connected, what some of the things were that they were trying to accomplish, that they were looking for help with, how things have progressed over the past 2 or 3 years, and how things look today compared to when we first started. So, Cory, Shannon, welcome.
Hey, Wade.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm super excited that you're here. Thank you so much for joining. So why don't you guys just briefly tell us about yourselves, a little bit about what you do, your family, where you live.
Yeah, we live in Omaha, Nebraska. We have been married for almost 10 years. We have 3 kids. They're 8, 6, and 3. And Cory's a dentist.
Yep. Have my own dental practice here in Omaha. I've had that for about 5 years now. And my wife, she's a nurse, but she's currently helping out with the business right now. So,
yeah,
awesome. And hobbies, what do you guys like to do for fun?
We love to travel. We're taking our kids to Disneyland in 2 days, actually, for the first time. So, what else do we like to do? We're busy with our kids' activities.
Oh, yeah.
We like to have date night at least once a month with just us, and then hang out with our friends.
Yep.
Watch sports, movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much sums it up. Work out. We like to work out.
We like to work out.
Stay healthy.
Good stuff. Right on. We had the good fortune. I took my family out on a motorhome trip a year ago, and we were able to, like, a part of our trip was just passing through your area. So we connected and got to hang out, spend some time together, let our kids get to know each other. And Omaha Zoo is a really cool place. Anyone listening, if you've ever been there, drop a note in the comments about what you thought about the Omaha Zoo. And well, I'm looking at some of my notes here, guys, and I am recognizing it was April 2020 when we first connected. I don't know if you can think that far back, but if you can, try to remember what it was that you were looking for when we first connected that made us want to have the conversation and discuss the possibility of coaching.
Sure. Like back then, I know life was really busy. Like I had just bought my dental practice a year prior. And so just trying to figure out how to work that system and get through the business and owning a business. It was a lot of stress in my life. Shannon was working full time as a nurse. We had 2 young kids at that time, 3 and 1. So life was pretty intense.
Busy.
And of course, that spring of 2020 was when COVID was creeping up. And so there's just another layer of stress in everybody. So I think I was also in charge of all the, I was also in charge of all the financial responsibility with the family. Shannon was, really focused on raising our kids there. And it got to a point where there's just too many things on my plate and we had to get some answers and get some organization in our life. And so that's what ultimately led me to reach out to you, Wade, and get some financial advice.
Yeah. So things were pretty stressful, it sounds like. I remember starting a new business, right? You had been an associate prior to that, if I remember, right?
Yep. For 4.5 years before that. Yep.
Okay. So you learned the business by being in it for a few years, and now you're just starting your own. And you started from scratch or purchased?
We purchased the practice. So there's a retiring doctor. He had some neck issues and some other things going on in his life, and he needed somebody to come take over his practice. And it was just good timing with things in our life. Yeah,
good times, kind of, right? It's an exciting time when you take on a new project, and super stressful. Am I right?
Yeah.
Is this thing actually going to work? I've got new team members that may or may not stick around. I've got, a client base or patient base that was already coming in. Will they stick with me? Will we be able to actually produce the income to pay the bills? It's a big loan to take on to start buy a practice typically. And so I'm looking at some of my notes from that. I just found them. Like I forgot that I had such good notes, but it said biggest challenges, not sure what's next in his financial life, protecting his wealth so he can produce passive income, stress about money since buying his practice a year ago, wants more time with his kids. And we talked about what having a clear plan would look like. And your main word, I don't know if you remember this, but it was relief. You said you would anticipate if we could accomplish overcoming some of those challenges you discussed, you're looking for some relief. And now I'm curious, again, we're over 4 years at this point. Do you feel a sense of relief or perhaps when did that first occur, if you have felt it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a process, but I think relief is definitely there, without a doubt. Like from where we started 4 years ago, I can't tell you how different things are now. Like dramatically different. A lot less stress. I think you and we've talked about that before in the past too, with like that loop that comes, when you get that panic loop. I forget what you called it, but at first, the loop would be really large and you'd go through this struggle for a long period of time. And it's all about making that loop smaller and smaller and smaller. So
call that the racket cycle, the mental racket cycle. Yeah. So that's actually a really interesting point. Let's touch on that for a second. For those of you listening, just kind of imagine a straight line and you're trying to get from point A to point B. And in your mind, you think it's basically just that. It's a straight line. You want to get there as quickly as you can. But what often keeps happening is that when you start at point A and you set point B, there's emotional things that come up, belief systems, triggering thoughts and experiences from your past that cause delays in how you move toward the accomplishment of your goals. And so if you can imagine each of those times that comes up and causes delays, like a circle. Well, a circle might look fairly small because it's, you can close it off. But when you lengthen it out, like those of you looking at my hand, you notice that when I close the circle, it looks small. But when I open up my finger and my thumb, it's much longer than you realize a circle is. So there's a significant extension of the amount of time it can take because of those loops that we go through emotionally. I'm not good enough to do this. It's like too much, I'm not worthy of this, or whatever the belief systems are, cause us to go through that. But the more we recognize that that's happening, the smaller the loop can be and the quicker we can make progress. So that's a big thing, guys. In coaching, we got to recognize what those triggering moments are, because thought is the genesis of emotion. Emotion is the genesis of action. Action creates results. And then those results, positive or negative, lead to more of that same type of thinking. So one of my mentors, virtual mentors, his name is Brian Tracy. He's a success coach, sales coach, and he uses the phrase, nothing succeeds like success. And that's a really short way of saying that when you get into a positive frame of mind of positive progress, it like expands and expands and expands. We have more and more success. And I personally, as a coach over the years, have found that the clients that I work with get into that more expansive thinking. There's a little bit more abundance mindset on a consistent basis, and that allows for expansion to occur of the financial resources and of the life experiences that you're seeking. Have you guys found that to be true?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like scarcity was huge in the beginning before coaching with you. Where I was pretty nervous about like, I mean, we've talked about this numerous times, but about like running out of patience, and as a dentist, like buying the practice, I was always afraid that I'd run out of patience.
Hold on that. Not running out of your ability to be patient with people, but running out of people coming in to receive your services, those type of patients. Like
Yes, as a dentist.
A legitimate fear, probably of more than one dentist and probably more than one business owner, is this worry or fear that, man, what if I only have a really finite number of people who will come in to see me or receive my service or my product? Yeah.
I could always tell things were running through his mind, even if, we were having family time or trying to relax on the weekend. Like I could always just tell in those first year or two of starting the business that he was just always thinking about, if he was doing things right or if he needed to do more or what he should be even doing. So it's just nice to have the opportunity to get things organized, get your thoughts organized, get a plan. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue into the overall system that I've taught you guys. Remember those 4 steps? Organize, systemize, optimize, maximize. And that stands for, it's an acronym that says awesome. You want to be awesome with money. So the organizing of thought, right? That's the genesis of emotion and action. So if we aren't clear on what our belief systems are, what kind of thinking we have about it, scarcity versus abundance, and how quickly we fall back into either or, it can cause us to be in turmoil emotionally. So share with me how getting financially organized was helpful in the beginning of our work.
Well, I think like the best way that we accomplish that is, we met at least twice a month in the beginning, setting goals, getting tasks accomplished that you recommend that we'd work on by the next meeting. And I feel like that helped really kind of push our organization and, getting finances, insurances, credit reports, all that stuff. That was pretty important there in the beginning to kind of get everything organized and clumped together.
Okay. And how did you feel having the financial life really organized?
Well, yeah, there's so much information out there with podcasts and, emails, books, research, all that stuff. There's so much financial knowledge out there. But like in my head at the time, it was just like a chaotic jumble. Like it was just too much information. Like what's right, what's wrong. We didn't really know for our family personally. And so once we got that organization with you, things were a lot clearer. It was not so much a jumble in the head anymore. It was just, laid out there in an organized fashion that, was easy to reference to and put up the mind.
So as that organization took place, what was the emotional reaction to it?
Are you looking for the word relief? Because we were getting more relief.
Not necessarily,
in our lives.
But I'm curious, like the word peace, like it helped us feel more comfortable. We felt more confidence. I'm legitimately curious thinking back on that for both of you, like what did that feel like, knowing, okay, we know where we're at?
Yeah, just being on the same page too. We got married, started having kids, owned a business. We were really busy and we didn't really ever have much time to talk about it or really sit down and look at all the numbers of what we had going on. So just being on the same page is huge. And then it just opens the doors for communication, further conversations about where we should go from where we were at on paper. So
right on.
Yeah.
So that's a powerful thing right there. One of my main objectives in my coaching and things that drive me, because I'm a family man. I've been married 21 years. I've got 6 children ranging from 8 to 19 years old now. My parents divorced when I was 12, and I saw firsthand the difficulties of a broken relationship. And some of the comments I got from my parents is that they struggled with certain communication. And so the word you just brought up there, that this opportunity to connect as a couple, to be in meetings with me, created that accountability to be there together. And then I'm sure you've had private sessions in the evenings, when the kids are down or maybe on the weekend. I often recommend my clients have a weekly marriage mastermind where you're talking through a variety of things, from your future vision for your life to an upcoming commitment you have of time somewhere. Maybe you've got a service thing, or maybe you've got a work thing, or you've got a trip you're going to take or something. What are the financial ramifications of certain decisions, and what are the goals we're trying to accomplish? So there's this byproduct of a unification that I have seen consistently in my married clients, and I'm grateful you brought that up. That's, I'm sure, a lot of what others are seeking that happens as a natural byproduct of this. And it's the accountability, right? Coaching isn't advice. Coaching is asking you where you're at, what is important to you, and then helping create accountability and like a path that has benchmarks, action items that are time bound to help progress continue to happen. And you've done that. You've taken that. We've kept up on a quarterly basis after that first fairly intensive year, right? It was at least, we typically do weekly for most of my clients in the first 3 months, maybe every other week, depending on their availability. But there's a regular accountability. Then it kind of spreads out because life happens. The thing about money is it's not instantly there in large quantities in most cases. It takes time to develop an ongoing rhythm and receive the resources that then you have to make decisions about. So we start to extend the time later on. I'm curious, on average, what you think the time commitment was in that first 3 to 6 months of working together. How much time per week do you think you spent talking about money and dealing with that?
I mean, we had our hour session, and then maybe like an hour of prep work and discussion and things. Would you say? Or
yeah, maybe a little bit more intense in the beginning, where we spent a little extra time on it, especially getting the financial scorecard and all the documents together. Like that took a little bit more time, but I mean, after that, we're in a pretty good routine where it's just, an hour with you and then an hour or maybe 2 hours, just getting prepped and getting the goals accomplished that we set.
Right. Yeah. So it's something that clients bring up. Man, I'm not sure if I have the time for this. And 1 to 2 hours a week, probably spreading that out to an hour or two a month after the basics get in place, right? To keep things maintained. It's not that difficult. It's kind of like you come in to see you as a patient. It takes an hour to be there and do the cleaning and the analysis and the x-rays and whatever the procedure might be, but then it's like maintenance, 6 months to a year, and you're taking care of your teeth. It's not that big a deal, right? Similar things for finance. Once we get the life kind of organized, and then we move into creating systems, right? Once you have the data available, then you can move a rhythm and almost automate the flows of the cash.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what were some of the specific changes or strategies that you made that had the biggest impact for you guys on your financial situation?
Well, I guess it's not very specific, but just being able, like what I learned from our coaching sessions. I wasn't very versed in the financial lingo at all. Being a nurse, I just didn't learn anything like that in school or anything. So just the communication that we were able to have was helpful to me. That's not a very specific thing, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, specific. I don't know, really. I mean, like, like I said, I think going with the goals, like, obviously our bigger goal was to be financially literate, know what we're doing with our finances and things like that. And then breaking them down into the small goals that you were talking about, with doing our daily tasks and things like that. I mean, you got to look at the bigger picture, like accomplishing that bigger goal of being knowledgeable in finances, like, was great. Like that was awesome. So,
So actually, that's really interesting. So it wasn't necessarily a specific strategy that's had the big impact. It's learning the lingo, understanding what money is, the language of money, and like how things work, becoming more financially knowledgeable. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's great.
Yeah, I have found similar things to be true. I often use the phrase when we're talking about investing that risk is in the investor, not the investment. And what that gets at is that if you have an awareness of what investing is, if you have an awareness and knowledge, knowledge really brings a sense of confidence and power. It gives us the ability to make better decisions. So then you can start to apply strategies. So some of the things that we often do for small business owners like yourselves is take a look at the tax situation. Are we optimizing that? And I'm not necessarily a tax professional. I'm not licensed to do that, but I've been around this conversation so much and personally worked with CPAs on different strategies. There are certain things that can be done. And I'll just remind some of the listeners here, if you're in a small business, operating as an S corporation is one of the most advantageous things that can be done, especially for a 100% owned business, like somebody in the service space in dentistry, chiropractic, other service-based businesses in the healthcare space. Even if you operate a construction company or perhaps a physical products business, like if you're a 100% owner, you can operate that thing as an S corporation, and you can differentiate salary, which has payroll tax or the Social Security and Medicare taxes that are an extra 15.3%. You can separate that out by having a salary versus a distribution of profit. Whereas if you're a sole proprietor, if you're in an LLC running as a single member LLC, those are all, every dollar that you have as profit in those businesses are subject to the payroll tax or self-employment tax, and you can save anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 a year in that situation. So we discussed that and made sure that that was being dialed in with your CPA. And so I'll always refer people back to their strategists, specialists, professionals, after we talk big picture to validate things are legit for you. What about assets? Like, you guys have an interest in real estate. What was your situation with real estate when we first started versus what you have done since?
I mean, I'd like to say that we were probably more of like money hoarders. Like, we were afraid to spend the money. Like, back to that scarcity mindset where, we were afraid if we spent the money here on an investment, like maybe there's a better opportunity down the road. And so once we've kind of worked through that mindset, shifting it to abundance, we've made some investments. We made an investment on a quadplex with some family members, with an opportunity that came up with that through the family. Other opportunities, like even a chicken farm became a thing, and it was a good opportunity, and we actually jumped on that as well. And it's even progressed to this point now where now I have more patients than I can handle, and we're actually expanding the practice, and that's another investment, just investing back into the business and being able to bring in more doctors to provide more services to our community. So it's just shifted quite a bit with abundance with investments now at this point. But at the beginning, it wasn't that way. It was not.
Right. Yeah. So even though you had funds in the bank, there was a hesitation to make any decisions. And when did that change in your minds where you felt like, you know what, I think we can go ahead and make that investment? What was the switch, if you can pinpoint it?
I would say with that initial purchase of the quadplex, well, we felt very sure about it because it was with people we knew and trusted. It was with family members. But like, just jumping in, honestly, we had talked about it so much. We had looked at opportunities and never pulled the trigger. And we're like, it was a little bit, you'll never know until you try. And we knew we had the finances in the bank, and we're like, let's give it a try. It's a very good, safe opportunity, space to be in. So I think that was kind of my experience with it.
Yeah. And I think with you too, their way, like, we did the investment worksheet with you of like, what a quality investment would be. And I think that helped out too a little bit, just kind of built that confidence a little bit there that, that everything will be okay as long as you kind of, believe in the investment and know, where your values stand with it.
Yeah. You got us put our what we needed, our criteria for being able to make an investment, and that kind of helped guide us.
Yeah, great point there. When we're making important decisions, whether it's an investment decision or whether it's like whether or not to go on a trip, or if you're upgrading your house, or if you're changing locations, I have found a really useful tool is to identify clearly what you absolutely must have in that situation. Like, what is the ideal situation, and bullet point that out. And then what are the nice to have things? What would be just bonuses? If we could get this too, it'd be awesome. And so we create our own personalized set of criteria, and then we can filter things, which then does what? Brings up the confidence, right? The knowledge, the vision that we've created brings up the confidence, so the decision can be made much more quickly and with a strong likelihood of success. So I'm curious about a couple other things before we wrap up for today, and that is, Shannon, you made a big decision as a part of your kind of life goals. Tell our listeners a little bit about what you chose to do.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, after we had our third kid, and we were a couple of years in on owning the dental office, we decided that I would quit my job and help Cory out more with the business. So leaving my almost 10-year nursing career was kind of a big decision, but we really were in the space where we were, I always say we were kind of like ships passing in the night. Like, he had his work thing, I had mine. We had 3 very young kids. And we just, something had to give us more peace of mind, the home life that we always wanted, less stress. So that was kind of the given with that. And he was, even in his free time or the weekends, he was bookkeeping, answering emails, running errands or doing things. There's always things that come up with a small business that you own. So me stepping away from work was able to help him a lot with all of that. And then that snowballed into just me being able to understand everything he was going through, the stressors of being a business owner and things like that I hadn't really even known was going on, just being so busy myself. So that really just got us on the same page. Definitely improved our family life, our home life. He's able to just focus on the dentistry a little more as opposed to all the admin type of stuff that I'm able to help with now. And then weekends are now more free time, family time versus him being at the computer and then me being stressed out alone with the kids or whatever, we're able to be together on the same page a lot more. So it's just been huge. Yeah.
I remember vividly the 2 or 3 or 4 conversations we had as you prepared for that and kind of going through to make sure the financial reserves were in place in case the business revenue wasn't, as consistent for whatever reason. We did a little bit of kind of worst case scenario to make sure that the timing of things would be okay. And then of course there's just that leap of faith. There's a lot of people listening to this that might be considering, I'd like to be able to be home with my kids, one or the other. I'd like to have more time, but they feel the burden of always having to produce another dollar, save up more money. And like the future's never going to arrive. That future of being able to be at home or to stop working at some point. So removing money from the situation, what was it about? Why did that become so important to you guys to make that decision?
We always say, when you hear the word wealthy, most people think wealthy with your money, but the biggest wealth for us is time. So that really just opened up a lot more time. I can do a lot of like the housework, groceries, meal prep, things like that during the day. And then time in the evenings to just be together, be with our kids, focus on them. We're a lot more wealthy with our time now. And that's just as important. So,
yeah, it's great.
Cory, anything to add to that?
I mean, I think we kind of discussed that in the beginning is like, I was always worried about missing time with my family. Like I didn't want to get to an old age in life and regret not having the time with my family and spending that quality time together. So when Shannon was able to help us out with the business and move on from nursing there, like we do get that quality time now. I don't feel like I'm missing out on things. It's important. It's really important. You can't put a price tag on that. So you can't.
Yeah. So I bring back this key phrase I often use, and that is that personal finance has to become personal. It's not the way I do it that matters. It's not that you have the best way of doing it. It's not that the next person has the best way of doing it, but we have to align the financial decisions in our lives around what we value as individuals and as in the case of married couples, as a couple. So there's unity in that. There's a joint vision for the future that allows for these types of decisions to be made in the right timing when it becomes a high enough priority. And with that third child, I think that was the big clincher for you guys is, wow, we really have some commitments here that it seemed to me for you guys was a high enough value and became a priority at that point where the decision needed to be made. And you guys did it, and it's worked well for you. And I would suggest anyone listening to this that has similar decisions to be made, whether that's an employment change from one job to another, maybe a new skill development needs to be had, maybe you need to go back to school, maybe you need to hire a coach to help you work through something. Maybe there's a business opportunity that is on the cusp that a decision needs to be made. When you're clear on the financial situation, it makes it much easier to make those decisions with confidence. And I've seen it over and over and over again with my clients that it just, it makes it happens faster is what I've noticed. That's why I call it the Wealth Acceleration Podcast. When we do these things, it's almost like the magnet of what we're looking for in our life gets stronger, or perhaps things get out of the way and we're able to have those things come into our life much faster. And I've shared this probably with you guys, but when I first made a really important business decision, I did an undergraduate degree at the University of Utah, and it was focused on entrepreneurship and business. And it almost just felt like something I was supposed to do. Yeah, the high school degree wasn't enough. And so the college degree was the next thing in order to provide for my family. So I did that. And I took about 5-year hiatus. I went and started doing some work in the space that I work in today. And I felt inclined to go, actually did a visioneering exercise called the Ideal Life Vision. And on that popped up the idea of getting my MBA. And so I started to look. This was 2013, and immediately the opportunity showed up at a local college called Westminster College. And it was a private school that had a really interesting program called a professional MBA. And that was, not professional, but project-based. So there's typically a professional, which is you're working, and so you're doing it at night. And then there's an executive MBA where you typically do it on weekends. And then there's this really unique approach to a project-based, which was kind of a hybrid. So we had one day on site at the school, and then we had a PhD professor who was heading up that semester's work. I was like, this is really interesting. This might work out. And then I looked at the price tag and I'm like, 50 grand? What? I don't have 50 grand to go to school. How am I going to do this? But I just had that impression this was important, and it kept coming back to me. You need to do this. And so I started to find ways to do it. And I found loans that were available to graduate students. I found actually not tax-free, but an interest-free loan, a private citizen. So guys, this is kind of, I want to seed legacy as we wrap up here today. And I don't know if you guys have thought through this much, but I know we did an exercise where you set a plan for age 45. As you get closer to that, guys, you'll be thinking about what does 65 look like and what does 95 look like. And I just had my 21-year anniversary a couple of weeks ago. We did some visioneering for our next 20 years. But somebody else that I came across during this decision in 2013 was a woman named Everly Schwartz. She had passed on, but she was in Texas, and she was a businesswoman. She had some car dealerships and things that produced some wealth, and I guess she didn't have kids or something, but she had set up a trust, a foundation called the Everly Schwartz Trust Fund for Education. And I came across this in some of my research and applied for it, and was able to get several tens of thousands of dollars to support what I was up to. And it was an interest-free loan. I had never in my life come across something like that, but it was like an answer to prayer for me. I felt this impression I needed to pursue this. It had come up in my vision written exercise about my educational side of my life, and then things fell in line. But had I not done that work, similar to what you guys had been doing, the decision would not have been able to be made. I probably would have pushed it off and no big deal. But my whole point here is that as far as acceleration, I did that in 18 months, 50 grand. And when I got done, I looked at all the education I'd received, and I realized I could have gotten it for free online. Universities were producing the same type of content, books available on the same topics. I could have done it all for free. And I lamented for a minute. I'm like, did I seriously just do that? Did I really just spend 50 grand to go through that program? That was a waste. That was one momentary thought that crossed my mind. And then I went, no, it wasn't. I would have never done that level of education that quickly had I not paid the price.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
So when we pay for something, we pay attention to it. We get it done faster. And that's what kind of got my mind thinking about what I would call this podcast when I finally launched it, was that acceleration process. When we choose into something big, which may be coaching, maybe formal education, it may be, just a conversation with a spouse or a friend about something that's important to you, man, things start to happen faster. So let's wrap up there. If there's any parting thoughts on anything that you feel like you wanted to share that we haven't discussed, any insights you had, any other like ahas, or perhaps those listening, who are kind of on the fence of deciding if they want to work with somebody like me, what would be your parting thoughts today?
I mean, I'd say, if finances are important to you, like get a coach for it. Like, as Wade said, it does speed up the process dramatically and get you the comfort and the confidence that you need with your finances. And I mean, get a coach for anything in your life. You know, me as a dentist, business owner, I have a dental coach aside from Wade. You know, Shannon and I work out, and I'm not where I want to be, and I've actually been researching into getting a coach for my health and making sure I stay on track with that too. So any aspect of your life, I'd say, if you need help or you want to accelerate or get to where you want to get, I mean, a coach is the way to go, without a doubt.
Yeah, you're really just investing in yourself. So yeah. You don't need to be at a certain
really
level.
Right? You're not investing in that person, you're investing in you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's scary for some people is, will they really get the most out of it? Do they believe in themselves enough that they will do the work to get the results they're looking for? It's almost irrelevant who the coach is, honestly. You could talk to a lamppost for that matter. Hey, I've got this vision, and pretend they're talking back to you. There's something really valuable about just making that decision. But what I have personally found, many of my peers have found, what you guys have found, is that when you pay for something, you pay attention to it. There's a personal commitment and investment in self that's really life-changing, that speeds up the results you're looking for. So guys, thanks so much for spending this time with me and sharing your experience with the listeners of this podcast. You guys are awesome. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and your trip to Disneyland is awesome.
Thanks so much. We appreciate everything.
Yeah, you're great, man.
All right, guys, take care. All right. All the listeners, thank you for being here, listening to this. Love you guys, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wealth Acceleration Podcast. We hope the insights from today's episode help you streamline your finances and grow your wealth stress-free. For show notes from today's episode and more tips on creating a comprehensive wealth-building plan, visit moneymasterycoaching.com. Remember, financial freedom is attainable. Until next time, keep accelerating towards your goals. See you on the next episode.